War was filled not only with tragedy, but with moments of dark humor and irony. After the war had officially ended, Major Richard Winters received an official request from Captain Herbert Sobel, the regiment's supply officer, ordering him to return his silk escape map from Normandy or face a $75 fine. Winters, never one to waste words, responded with a brief note addressed to Sobel. On the paper he wrote only one word: nuts. The reply carried a deeper meaning than most paperwork clerks probably realized. During the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944, German forces had surrounded American troops in Bastogne and demanded their surrender. Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, acting commander of the 101st Airborne Division, answered the Germans with that now legendary single word: nuts. Confused German officers had to ask for a translation, only to be told it essentially meant, go to hell. Even amid the horrors of war, Easy Company somehow maintained its sense of mischief, much of it directed toward Captain Herbert Sobel during training in England. Sobel was an intensely demanding officer, whose relentless discipline helped forge Easy Company into an elite unit, though many of the men despised him personally. At one point, Sobel assigned Robert Popeye Wynne as his runner during field exercises. Wynne promptly got lost in the dark and spent the night sleeping instead of carrying out his assignment. The next morning, an enraged Sobel demanded an explanation. "Because I can't see in the dark," Wynne answered bluntly. "You'd better learn to see in the dark," Sobel snapped back before replacing him with Ed Tipper. Tipper later admitted that many of the men quietly sabotaged Sobel whenever possible. Maps disappeared, compasses were misplaced, directions became mysteriously confusing. They desperately hoped Sobel would embarrass himself badly enough to be removed before they entered combat. One night, Sobel decided to teach the company a lesson about weapon discipline. Accompanied by Sergeant Evans, he crawled through sleeping positions in darkness, stealing rifles from careless soldiers. By dawn, they had gathered nearly 50 weapons and proudly assembled the company for a humiliating lecture. Then, disaster struck. As Sobel berated the men for incompetence, the commander of Fox Company arrived with dozens of angry soldiers behind him. During the night, Sobel and Evans had wandered into the wrong bivouac area entirely and stolen rifles from another company. The embarrassment was complete, and the men of Easy Company likely laughed about it for years afterward. This story comes from Lieutenant Colonel Robert Strayer, commanding officer of the 2nd Battalion, 506th, in a letter written to former Easy Company 1st Platoon Sergeant Bert Christensen on December 9, 1990. During training at Camp McCall, the battalion faced an overnight exercise. The medics had been grumbling for quite a while that they never had the opportunity to perform any genuine medical work in the field. Since there were no actual casualties, I approved their request. During the exercise, several men were marked as seriously wounded, including Captain Sobel and Gross, who commanded Dog Company. The medics transported them to a surgical tent where they administered injections of pentothal. They explained it was only water and meant to make the exercise feel more authentic. Naturally, both men fell asleep almost immediately. One medic shaved off Gross's large mustache, which he had always been very proud of. As for Sobel, they made a small cut on his stomach, stitched it with surgical thread, bandaged the area, and painted iodine around the wound. When he regained consciousness a few hours later, the medics informed him they had removed his appendix. Still dazed from the drugs, he actually believed them for a time. Even so, he demanded to march back to camp with his company the next morning, and he managed to do exactly that. He staggered the whole way, driven entirely by stubborn determination. Some time afterwards, Sobel wrote to an uncle in Chicago, an influential figure in the textile business, describing the incident. His uncle became outraged, contacted an important official in Washington, and before long the whole matter came crashing down on me straight from the Pentagon.